Hello, I'm Palash Borah. I am the CSR and the Marcom Manager of Blood India Operations. We are so fortunate that in Chai and Batein, Blood की Chai and Batein में आज है अंजलि गोपालन जी, जिन्होंने हमारे LGBTQ कम्युनिटी के लिए कम से कम जब फाइनली मतलब जब इंडिया में चीजें शुरू भी नहीं होती थी, इन्होंने अंजलि जी ने अपना एक फाउंडेशन स्टार्ट करके इन्होंने हमारे लिए she fought for the rights for the LGBTQ community in India. So, cheers to her. She is not only working for LGBTQ rights, but yeah, she's been working for animal rights. She has an orphanage which is for children who are living with HIV. And she has done, tremendous contribution towards the whole world. And this is something like really, really, really beautiful. So Anjali ji, we would like to hear from you now. It's really, we are really looking forward. All of us are really looking forward to hear from you now.
Thank you so much for having me with you, and I'm really honored and thrilled to be here, and very happy to connect with everybody. Let me start with about Naz, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was exactly 25 years ago when Naz started. And we definitely see ourselves as an HIV prevention and care organization working on rights, working on advocacy. Prevention and care obviously is very critical to the work we do. So when we first started our work, this was in 94, towards the end of 94, things were very different. When younger people today give me ask me questions of why Naz did not think about actually following the rights approach to Challenge 377, I'm so glad I'm getting this opportunity to share this with everyone, that at that time there was no sense of community. There were no community groups. There were no spaces. And if we had spoken about rights, the pushback would have been so tremendous, because even just speaking about decriminalization, we had a hard time. But that is why we spoke about decriminalization, because that we saw as the first step to work towards bringing about change, right? Because without that, if the community continues to be looked at as a criminal community,
exactly,
I don't think we would have been able to get very far. And of course, now the fight for rights starts, and we have to make sure that happens, because clearly there's no way that we can't be fighting for rights and can't ensure, make sure that people do get the rights that they deserve, and is their right as citizens of this country to have. Right? How can you deny rights to anybody who's a citizen? If you claim to be a democracy, then please live like one. But that's why we started with decriminalizing.
So, when you were telling about, 94, that is one era when there was no internet and communication was really barged, it is something not small, and then taking this huge step, and that too in a country where, nobody knows what LGBTQ is. And then you coming out of the shell and then doing something is really, hats off, Anjali ji, you are someone I really look forward to, and doing things forward to, work for humans. I also personally believe, you have, really, stood up as a pillar for the whole LGBTQ movement. So going ahead, I have, I think you already answered my question. That was what was the emerging situation back in those days that you thought to advocate for human rights? And I think this was something which you already explained it. So I just want to ask you, this is something which will be for the newer generation now. So this question would be, how was networking during those days when internet wasn't there? Was the fight for equality and human rights on the same scale as it is today?
I think it was very different. I think there was a lot more, clearly it wasn't as quick and fast as things are now. But I think we had to really meet people, convince them, and very often it was face-to-face. It was, how does one advocate for change in an environment which is so hostile? it was having to work, and you really come to an understanding that if we wanted to bring about change, it was so critical that we form larger coalitions, that no one could have done this alone. And all of this had to be done in an era when communication was not what it is today. But believe me, I'm still very comfortable with that form of communication rather than look how long it got me to get onto Insta today. So I'm a lot more comfortable with that. But things were obviously very different. Listen, it worked. It worked because also understand that something, because of HIV prevention, we were able to talk about these issues. It opened the doors for us to talk about sexuality, to talk about rights. If it hadn't been for HIV, I think it would have been a lot more difficult.
True.
So HIV prevention actually allowed us to, it made it easier for us, allowed us to step through doors which otherwise would not have opened for us. Also, I think what happened was the government started funding programs for communities that were seen as being criminalized. So that also opened yet another door for us, right? The very fact that on the one hand, government is funding a program, and on the other, you're saying that, look, these people are criminals. But then why is government funding this program, right? So I think many things happened at that time. And also, I think this was for the first time in the history of our country that I know that we had groups emerge, not just LGBTQ, the HIV networks, the sex worker networks, which started getting stronger and stronger, and therefore we learned a lot from each other and got a lot of support from each other. So I think that times itself were changing a lot when things happened for us. I feel we need to reignite the fire. You see, all that's happened is decriminalizing, right? We are nowhere close to getting rights for the community. You know, rights that everyone takes for granted. And of course, everyone only wants, immediately we start talking about the right to marry. But the point is that it's every other right that you can think of that people from the community don't have. And for me, it doesn't make sense. How can you deny someone the right to marry, someone the right to inherit, someone the right to adopt or to have children from surrogacy? These, if one set of people in the country have it, then everyone should have it, right? So I think the time has now come for us to understand that we again need to start looking at larger coalitions, getting people to start talking about these issues. Otherwise, it's just we're going to carry on the way we are feeling very happy that Section 377 has been read down. But that's just not even the tip of the iceberg, right? We have such a long way to go. I just feel people are still look at the violence, look at the denial, look at how families still treat children who are from the community. Look at how society is treating people from the community. So yes, some changes have happened. I'm not saying no, but I think we really need to fight.
We need to fight
now
to
bring about that change.
And when in the year 2000 you started your orphanage, the orphanage which was for the HIV positive children. So what are the challenges that you have faced so far? From the initial days till now,
I think there is definitely a change in the way people react to someone living with HIV. The changes have been positive to some extent. Does that mean that people living with HIV are accepted or can be open about their status? Maybe not.
I agree. No,
I still think I don't think it's so simple, right? But I know from when we opened the home for children, we opened because none of the existing institutions, wanted to take children who were living with HIV. So we had no option but to open a home. Because I don't think we should have standalone homes at all anymore.
Of course,
it doesn't make sense. I think everyone should be integrated, But we had to start it at that time because no one was willing to take children living with HIV. Now, with the medications that are available, I think times have changed.
Yeah.
So at that time, there was no other option. Also, no one knew. We didn't know how long children would live. We were running the home on the assumption that they may not be around for very long. And thank God, today my oldest one is 27 years old. So,
Miraculous,
you
yeah.
know, and with the kind of drugs that are available and everything, I'm sure he's going to live, I hope, touch wood, for as long as he should be living.
True.
So there's a lot of hope.
And the biggest thing which has come up is the U equal to U, that is undetectable equal to untransmittable. So somebody other
Yeah.
this concept, if it is practiced in a larger manner, would definitely pave up the path of stigma being removed. Coming to stigma itself, do you think the stigma which corners the HIV positive community is still there, or somewhat the stigma is getting eradicated from the society?
It's a big mixed bag. It's really difficult to say that it's either way. There are certain situations, certain environments where you find that there is a lot more acceptance.
Right.
But people who are living with HIV still are very nervous about being open, not only about being open, about others finding out. Because you just don't know how people are going to respond.
Yeah.
You don't know what the reaction is going to be. And we also know for a fact that even though you know there are laws which protect someone living with HIV, so now potential people who are hiring, for example, are smart. They're not going to say, we are not hiring you because you're HIV positive.
True.
They're going to find other reasons. So I think there is still that issue. There are very few spaces that you can actually be very open about living with HIV. So, the more I think about it, I think it's still not that easy for people living with HIV.
No, I agree.
But a lot easier than it was when we started 25 years ago, for sure. For sure. But, things like homophobia, transphobia, this fear of people living with HIV, the stigma, the discrimination that people are facing still exists. And there is another battle that we have to constantly fight. By the way, we are a society that is so stratified on class and caste lines that discrimination is inherent to us. And we really need to teach ourselves and our young people not to discriminate, to respect, to learn what it means to be inclusive and accepting of diversity. These are all learned behaviors. And we don't teach our young about that at all. So I think that's another whole area that we really need to start focusing on with young people.
Indeed. Talking about rights, I mean, you have been also working a lot on animal rights. You have a beautiful shelter home. There are a lot of videos in YouTube. So I think it is I think a lot of our viewers would be really interested to know about the same. So can you please go ahead and let everyone know about the incredible work you're doing for animals?
It's so funny how things keep repeating themselves in life, no? When I started the home for children, I remember I'm not one of those motherly women, I never wanted children of my own. So I had absolutely no intention of starting anything with children. And then I ended up doing that, and then my mother laughing and saying, oh, this is just retribution. You didn't want children, now look what's happened. And the same thing happened with the shelter for animals. Two things happened. One is, I think my own understanding of rights evolved. I realized that if we are looking, it cannot be just human rights. It cannot be one set of rights versus another.
True.
And I think that's how I started thinking about animal rights. Of course, I've always loved animals. I've been surrounded by them. My grandfather, who I never met, my dad's dad, was a veterinary surgeon. So, but I never met him, but it's there, and we were always surrounded by animals. And my father always thought, I remember once, you have to teach children to love animals.
Yeah.
You can't tell them, oh, don't touch, it'll bite you, that kind of nonsense that adults keep doing, their own fear. they put it to children. I remember once telling my dad, oh, I'm a dog person, I don't like cats. And the next day he brought a cat home. And of course, you know, when an animal comes into your life, just like when a child comes into your life, you start loving them. So you learn to love. Animals have that power. So the same thing happened with the shelter. I decided to volunteer with a vet. And I was horrified at the way they were treating me. I said, I'll volunteer. I don't want to start anything. Then I found over there, they were not feeding the animals, saying that, oh, they shit too much if you feed them. I was like, no, this can't be happening. So I said, no. They have a right. We're not doing them a favor. They have a right to the best care possible, just like human beings do. We have to put them at the center of the intervention. So that's when I started the shelter for animals. And the rest is history, you know. They have a way of, just like children, they have a way of making you love them like crazy.
True.
So I must tell you, I think I'm the happiest person on this planet today, because it gives me so much joy that I wake up in the morning and never feel, oh God, this is another day I have to go to work. Whether I'm going to Naz or I'm going to All Creatures Great and Small, I'm just so happy that I'm alive and I can do this.
Great, Anjali ji, great. And how was it winning the Nobel Prize? I mean, back in 2005, you won the Nobel Peace Award.
No, I was nominated. No, but please, all these things are crazy because you're not doing. I mean, to me, it's, what have I done that's so great? Nothing of the sort. But because it doesn't make sense. You are doing what you're doing because you believe in it and it's your life. You're living your life like that, no? So it's really wonderful, and I'm very grateful to people who acknowledge the kind of work I do, and I'm truly grateful for that. I'm very touched by it. But at the end of the day, it is what I believe in. It is, and you know, whatever we do, Palash, if you look at it, we do. All of us are selfish. At least I am.
I agree.
And I think I do what I do because I get so much more back in return. Look, today as a single person, and many of us who are single have to create our own families. We have to create our own systems, right? When people tell me, my God, don't you feel lonely? And I'm like, my God, I just want a break sometimes. I don't want to be surrounded by people all the time. But you know, there's so much love. Whether I fall ill or whether I need something, I just need to say something.
Right.
And there are so many people who will reach out and take care. So I just feel one gets so much more back than what one gives. So we are really lucky. We are blessed to be able to do what we're doing. Many would like to do it, but they can't.
I agree to it. Yeah.
Lucky woman.
Yeah, we all need to be lucky to at least to help someone for ahead. So that's a whole thing.
Yes.
When I'm really touched because this time when I contacted you, because it was regarding one of my transgender friend who was affected by black fungus, who almost lost her eyes. How Naz came forward to, how Anjali ji came forward to help her out. And it is something which is very incredible, which I shall never forget, because she felt like that person was going through such immense pain, and then she still is, and then she's recovering with all God's grace. And in this live session, I'm really thankful to Anjali ji to really look forward to to help that person.
I'm so glad Naz could do it, because that's why Naz is there, right? That's why we exist. Again, we are blessed we could do it. Thank God we could do it. And I know she will need a lot more support. And I really want to reach out to everyone who's listening in today and to say that find a way to support her, please, because it's hard for her. She's really gone through a very bad time. It's not easy. And every little bit helps, because, one of the things is that whenever we think of doing something, we think the problem is so big that we get paralyzed. But I'm not a big picture person. I feel every little bit helps. So if anyone and everyone who's listening today can reach out and contribute even a small amount
Right.
It will go towards the care and support of this friend of yours. So I think, I don't know if some campaign has been started for her or not, but if it hasn't, Palash, you should do something. We should all reach out and help her.
And interestingly, I and Anjali ji are also part of the UN think tank, LGBTQ think tank board of members. So we are working together. We are trying to fight for our rights, fight for the community rights. So just a step away, that someday think tank could do more incredible things. So it is something really wonderful to work with Anjali ji also on the same forefront. So one more question, you have been to the Blue Queer Flix offline event. So how was your overall experience?
Oh, wonderful. Listen, first of all, I wasn't expecting something like that. Right? Because in my head, it's a dating app.
Yeah.
So you don't expect a dating app to be doing that, right? So that was an eye-opener.
Right.
And I think, therefore, when I think of, I'm just going to kind of digress a little and talk about the fact that obviously when we think of dating apps, we think of Grindr and company, right? And in my mind, Blued was very different. And also interesting because it's actually reaching out to the community. It's looking at safety issues. These are issues that most dating apps, even though they claim to be looking at, don't necessarily do, right? And I think it goes beyond being just a dating app. It's doing things for developing community, for somehow working towards inclusion also, I feel.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great thing that has happened. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank
you. Good job.
Thank you so much. So the main aspect of Blued India basically is to include not only just the LGBTQ community but everyone, and then to make things look normal, as if there is nowhere there a person has to be with tags. All of us are under one umbrella that is being called as humans. So none of us need tags, or you were called you are gay, you're lesbian, or you're living with HIV, or you're orphan. We don't need tags. In the animal kingdom, no one lives with tags. Yeah, I mean there are different strata of divisions, but then the tags, it is only here we are living with. So and this is something which we are people like you are creating a vast difference. Seeing you live for the first time, okay, ma'am should be live more. I mean, she should plan more sessions.
Listen, I'm so glad that I'm not dead right now. I know, look at the times we're living in, COVID and the environment and this crazy, crazy time, right? That I'm so happy that all of us have got the chance to connect.
Ma'am, could you please put some limelight on people who are from village? Being a gay person from village, he is finding it very difficult.
It is very hard because unlike, you do not have the anonymity of living in a large city. It's definitely hard. But I'm just wondering whether there is someone you can find who you can speak with. Because around us, usually we will find one or two people that we can speak with. And because you live in the age that we are living in, that you can connect. Look, living in a rural area today, you are on this platform, which in itself should give you a lot of strength.
True.
And help you deal with some of the loneliness that you are dealing with because you are in the rural area that you're living in. It's not easy, but I think very often there is a lot of self-censorship also within us, right? Those are issues that we need to work with. I'm not saying go and tell the whole world that you're gay. No. But try and identify some resource near you where you can reach out and be able to speak with someone.
Right.
It may be possible, but I can understand what he's going through and what he's feeling. And really, it's not an easy situation to be in.
To come out to his parents and society. He writes that, to coming out is also a challenge, of course.
First of all, please don't feel pressure to come out. One. Second, if you have to figure out for yourself whether the right time to come out. And then the third is, how do you come out? How do you prepare the people that you're planning to come out to understand and accept you for who you are?
Right.
Recently, I mean, one of the things I have done and I continue to do is very often be present when someone is coming out to their family, especially. And I find when I talk to their parents, of course, to have this older woman talk to the parents is helpful, right? Yeah. So you have to find some ways that you can do this. But please don't be in a hurry to do any of that. And one of the things I really think is you should be financially secure before you make any decisions to move out, to maybe even to come out. But you have to find the right person to come out to in the group that you're surrounded by, whether it is your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your uncle. It doesn't matter who it is, friend. But you have to make sure that you prepare them for it. Please don't just assume that because someone is a parent or someone is a friend, they will be accepting.
True.
And I find usually that over a period of time, once people start understanding, there is a change in attitude. But you have to make them understand that it is. You see, the biggest issue is two things when you come out to someone. One is, and usually parents, they usually think, they equate. This has been my experience. Oh, but our son is absolutely normal, and you're telling me he is a hijra. So they're equating. So I'm like, first of all, there's nothing wrong with being a hijra, but your son is not. He's gay. But there is no, there is no understanding. People don't know. So therefore, one has to really put in a lot towards the education of people.
Like how Anjali ji has already explained, like it is not about the age you need to come out, but the experience and your stability and how strong you can be as an individual. That would like take forward about you coming out or not, because coming out is not the big deal, but then you need to be like independent and strong enough, and yes, your surroundings, how it like equates that. I can take the last question, right? Like how would they educate their parents indirectly and about like LGBTQ rights and their own sexual orientation?
Yeah. So one of the ways to do it, which I found often people do, so I'm just sharing others' experiences, is that they end up showing them some video or a film. They'll sit and see a film with them. I know recently someone said he had Amir Khan had done a show while ago. This was on the community. So he actually got his parents to see that show, and then they started talking about the community and what it means to be gay, and that's when he kind of, that's the process he put into place to start discussing LGBTQ issues with his parents. So I think leaving material around for them to read, or finding someone within the family who is open to you and can also be that bridge. So you have to work at so many different levels. But I again say, please don't be in a hurry. You must prepare properly for people to accept you. That is critical. And very often, again, I think, what usually stops us is our own fear, not only about coming out, but generally about even accepting ourselves. Because our first step is to accept ourselves, to love ourselves, to love being who we are. Because the whole world is a very, the kind of messaging we get, it's a very heterosexualized world. So the kind of messaging you get is so negative. So the self-hatred, the not believing in yourself, not caring about yourself, not loving yourself, these are issues that you need to first work on. I think it's critical that we work on those issues too. The second bit is coming out to the world. The other is, first, I think, is accepting yourself too.
So Any message to to all our viewers who are watching you today? Like, what do you have to say to them?
The one thing I'll say is, please don't sit back and think that everything is hunky-dory because Section 377 has been read down, because that's all that's happened, is that it's read down.
Right.
It has not given rights to the community. And I really want us to come together to ensure. And I want us to start thinking a bit broader also. At least that's my thinking. So I'm just going to put it out there. So let's start thinking about not only rights, but to look at anti-discrimination, because that would be harder for people to disregard. So if we look at an overarching anti-discriminatory law, which includes everyone, so whether you're looking at marrying someone from another community or another caste, or marrying someone from the same gender, whatever it is.
Whatever.
Whatever it is. So let's start looking at how we can work towards that, I feel, instead of just limiting ourselves to marriage. Right?
True.
But let's look at rights in a more broad-based manner.
I think respecting each other as an individual is also like where it should also come from. It is very important.
My God. Yeah. That has to be the central point of everything we do. Yeah. And Palash, one of the things definitely is, if anyone needs to talk about any issue and they just need a sounding board, they're welcome to call me at any time. And you can share the number with whoever asks. And if I don't pick up the phone, it means I am busy somewhere else. If you send me a message that we met on Blued and, I would like to talk, I will definitely call you back.
That is Anjali ji for you. She's always there for all of us. She was just, I told her, that Anjali ji, I need you to come for the session. And she was like, okay, I'm fine with it. Let's do it. And that was like really so sweet of you. Thank you so much for having, it was like really, really delightful to have you here. So, personally, we have met so much, but this is sometime, we are like sitting on digital platform and we are talking today, and it feels great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Take care. And best of luck, everyone. Yeah. Stay safe.